abuse of the R&D scheme, and some of it intentional and unintentional. What are the reasons for the abuse? I mean, I know back in the days, especially back during COVID, when we were all on lockdown, the type of calls we were getting in for people wanting help with R&D claims, dentists, restaurant owners, gluten-free menus. I think the most talked about thing is purple croissants.
Yeah.
So, there's been abuse. HMRC are putting things into play to try and alleviate that and make the scheme work better. What's your opinions on both, I suppose, the abuse, how that's come about, and what those changes will do?
For me, there's a couple of elements there. There is abuse of the scheme. We understand that. There's also misunderstanding. So I don't put those in the same category, but the impact is the same. So we know the scheme came under attack from organised crime just less than a year ago now, and that had quite a significant impact on a lot of clients, because the repayments were delayed by up to half a year. So people were, expecting to get their cash, 5-6 weeks after putting their claim in. Half a year later, it hadn't arrived. And HMRC did the right thing. They closed the scheme down. They monitored. They made sure that they got the whole of the organised crime element, eliminated it, and then carried on. So that's a good thing. The elements being brought in to counter the abuse, I think, are very, very good. And we've been calling with quite a few of our, quite a few other R&D boutiques and other general practitioners for more compliance requirements on here, so that we do tackle abuse. We see some horrible claims, stuff that, how to spray vinegar on fish and chips, stuff like that. It just absolute nonsense and not what this is designed for. Now, you could say that's misunderstanding, or you could say that's abuse. It depends who it's being done by. Now, we do know there are practitioners out there who are not doing a very good job. There are lots that do a good job, but there are some that don't do a very good job, and they do it because they can charge a quick fee and run away. Now, what we're seeing at the moment is we're seeing an upping of the number of inquiries from all these new inspectors. That's good. It will put a lot more pressure on those providers that are not supporting their clients with helping them through the inquiry process, or who haven't done a very good job in the first place. So there's two really specific bits that are helping. The first is that a senior officer, senior official from the company must sign the claim off. So what that means is that the company can't then say, oh, we just relied on a provider, because there's a carve out in the legislation that says that if you rely on a provider and they get it wrong, you don't get a penalty. That's been cut away. You have to sign to say that you understand the claim and you agree with it. Therefore, if you get it wrong, you will be penalised. The other element is that the advisor that you've used has to be listed in the claim. So what this will allow HMRC to do is target the actual provider, not the company. They very quickly they will see patterns of from a provider that are not doing good claims, or not doing claims well, or going too far over the edges, whatever you want to call it, whether it's misunderstanding or abuse, kind of doesn't matter. If you're not claiming the right amount for your clients, that's a problem. HMRC can then target the providers, and ultimately they can stop them putting claims in. So they can actually bar them from the gateway, because all claims now have to be electronic. Yeah. So they can actually stop that provider dead in the water. That's a great move forward, a great positive move from HMRC, and one that we really welcome.
Yeah, well, we do that, don't we? So all our technical reports and stuff like that have our name on it. I suppose the uncertainty is that, there are people out there who do it themselves, maybe with the help of the accountant, who looks at the numbers and then will submit it as part of their tax return. So it's those will have to put their accountant's details on.
They will. Yeah. And the accountant will be expected to be competent to do it. If they're not, as a provider, if they're not competent to do it, they shouldn't be doing it. And this will allow them to be targeted directly. So either for, either for training from HMRC, I can't remember when we last had any training from HMRC. We did a decade ago when they had the resource, but not anymore. that's more likely to be targeted on the basis of you need to stop doing this.
Yeah. And another one that I think is quite controversial is this pre-notification that you're going to be doing R&D or claiming R&D.
Yeah, so pre-notification is an interesting one. Again, it feels like a really good idea, in that what it stops is if you have a claim that isn't very clever, the way it's been put together isn't inside the rules where it needs to be. Typically for a new claimant, you go back 2 years and claim those past years. The legislation says you can't do that anymore because you have to notify your claims in advance. But it feels the wrong solution to that particular problem. The other issue you've got is, by right, you're allowed to amend your corporation tax for up to 2 years, your return. By pre-notifying, you're saying you can change your corporation tax return, but not for one element of tax.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like it's viable. And the new process should be in tomorrow.
Yeah. And
we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I think there's a really good reason why we haven't seen it yet. I don't, again, it's a good idea, but I think it's the wrong solution to the particular problem. And I'm not sure it's actually lawful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know there's some drafts of what it could look like and what you should be doing, but again, nobody knows, no detail on it. So